Hello everyone, I know it's been a while, but what I want to show you today is this very simple but powerful 3D effect, and once you understand the principle you can apply it in a variety of ways, and I'm very curious what you guys can come up with. Let's get started. So before we start, I want to say that 3D rendering takes a lot of processing power, and the bigger your picture, the longer it takes. And for the sake of this tutorial, and also depending on your gear that you use at home, it is very important to change the image size, because at the moment, as you see, we are on 60% of its size, which means if I scroll 100% in, this is how big the picture is going to be. Therefore, I want to go to image size and decrease it by a lot. And for this tutorial, I go down to 1500. And click OK. Now you see it's much smaller. We could even make it a little bit smaller, but we go for this. We go with this for now. First thing we do is make 2 copies of it, and in the top layer we want to call this cut version, and the other one is the flat version. Let's just call it that. And we cut the shape that we want to subtract from the extrusion into this picture, and we can do this easily by just selecting a part. I don't know, let's say I choose this one here and I delete this, and then maybe do another one over the lips, and then we could even go with something like this. Cool. So basically what we're going to do now is we will apply this picture onto a 3D extrusion, and to do this we go up to 3D, new 3D extrusion from selected layer. If you click on this, you will see what happens. We say yes, we want to go to 3D workspace to use the 3D tools to edit this whole thing. And as you can see, this is now basically a flat plate that has been extruded by this amount here, and on the right part we can change the extrusion depth, and we just want to make this a tiny bit extruded. Now because we rotated it, we go up here and we go to the coordinates panel and we say reset coordinates, so we're back in the same place as we started. And we can drag this up to make it even with the ground, or we can say move to the ground here, so it's perfectly on the ground. Now as you can see, our extrusion is not visible really. Maybe if we pull this in a little bit more, it will be a little bit more visible, as you can see down here. Or we can push it a little bit further back. We do it like this. We want to fill out the frame, and we can go back to extrusion and maybe extrude a little bit more like this. Now the next thing we want to do is bevel the edges here, otherwise it just looks very sharp and cut, and we want to make it a little bit round. We can do this by going up here, the cap, and here we have the bevel option, and here we can decide how we want this to shape. If we want to have 2 corners, or if we want to have it very round. If we click on this, we have different options here, and we want to use the half round option here, and click OK. And now this should be a little bit rounder than before. Now the next thing that we can do is decide on the material, or let's say the behavior of the surface, if it's going to be transparent, if it's going to be reflective, and so on. And for this we have the following. If we go on Adobe's page about dimension, we can see what the different parameters do. So we have the base color, we have the glow, we have roughness, we have opacity, and we can see how the behavior of the material changes if we influence these parameters. Now what we want to do to make it look a little bit classy is play a bit with the opacity and maybe add some reflection, and the reflection we can do by decreasing the roughness, because the rougher the object, the less it reflects, or maybe even use the metallic option. Then we also have translucence, index of refraction. You get the idea. So what I want to do is to go to the bevel material We have the front bevel and the extrusion material, which is basically this gray little thing that you see here. The extrusion material will be this thing here, the gray one here. So as I go to the front bevel material or the extrusion material, I can use these parameters here to influence what I want to do with this. And as we can see, I will now do the translucence, maybe the index of refraction. Okay, now before we render preview this, we want to add the back layer into this 3D space. Because even if we would add the back layer as a PNG file or as a picture at the moment, it will not really interact with the 3D extrusion that we just have here. So what we do is we go to layers, we go to our flat version, here we go, and we're gonna choose new 3D extrusion from selected layer. So now we have the exact same thing with this version here. Once I rotate the camera, you might be a little bit confused because only the new thing will be rotated. And that's because these 3D objects are currently in different 3D spaces. I'm gonna go back to my default camera. What we have to do is we go back to layer, we choose both of them, and we have to merge them. Merge 3D layers. Now what might happen is that one object got completely misplaced. Let's see. Now they're actually on the same position. Let's go back to our default camera. But regardless, we have to position them a little bit. So we have the flat version here. I want to pull the extrusion down. On the left top, you can see what you extrude, how it will look. And I'll do it very, very thin. And then I want to move this a little bit further back, so it goes behind the other extruded layer. Now I can take my camera, or I can even take both of these versions and pull them closer. Or I can start moving my camera. And if I mess up my camera, I can always go back to the default camera. Now with the light, I can influence where the light should come from. I will adjust this to the actual picture. So I'll go up here, maybe something like this. And I could even pull the flat version a little bit further away. Maybe something like this. And then I can click on the render button down here to see what it would look like rendered. And here we have the finished 3D rendered version of it. Now you can always go back and change the parameters as long as we don't rasterize those layers. So let's say I go to the cut version, and let's say I want to possibly change the bevel. I would use the scroll wheel here because it's very, very sensitive. And as you can see, as you change those parameters, it gets more and more extreme. Or I can even go and change the materials, maybe even the front material. So if I change the translucence here, it becomes like glass as far as I know. And then with refraction. And let's see what happens when we render it like this. see there's quite a difference in between this version and the previous version. And it's really up to you what you want to do with it. There's so many options. So thanks for watching. I try to keep the editing to a minimum just to be able to make more videos so I can actually share things with you guys. I know my uploads have been slow, but I try to get more productive now that I have more time, and I hope to teach you more things. Thanks for watching and see you next time.